So this presentation, obviously there's a lot that goes into reviewing a league game, but this is just like the macro fundamentals. Like what should you look for? Say you're getting into the space, and obviously a league game is pretty overwhelming. There's a lot of shit going on in game. So these are specific things that you can look for to start to kind of identify what goes into a specific plan and what you should really look for when you're looking at a T1 game or a Gen G game or a TES game or just any high level games that you can kind of improve your game knowledge. And you can apply this to reviewing your own games as well. So first things first, this is probably the most scuffed slide, but okay. So I do this exercise with almost every single new team I'm with. And this is a screenshot of the exercise with, I think, Golden Guardians Academy back in 2021. And pretty much these were their answers to what skills should we work on. In solo queue, what can you work on? When you go over VODs, what can you work on? And in scrims, what can you work on? And I don't really want to get too far into this, but the whole point of this is there are certain skills that you can only work on in scrims, and that's why you want to focus on those things when you are in scrims. So if I am loading into a scrim game and I don't know the Darius Udyr matchup, but I lock in Darius and completely run it down for my team, probably a waste of everyone's time. So you should not be working on matchup knowledge in scrims. For the most part, you should be working on team fighting and positioning, composition. So if you're running like Talia into Silas, like how can I get gold onto my Talia mid game? Complex communication. So that's just, you have a plan, and in solo queue you can't really communicate to your teammates and they don't really listen, but in scrims they do. So you can talk about who has numbers, what the plan is, what you can do, all that stuff. Tempo and macro as a whole, and then plans and setups. Those are pretty much the overarching things that you should work on in scrims and spend your time doing. Not saying you shouldn't work on other things, but for the most part, those are the things that your reviews should be about. Okay. Also, if anyone has any questions, just throw them down in the chat. I will try to answer them as I go. Okay. So I'm going to do the boomer thing where I just kind of talk about what League of Legends is for a bit. So many team sports are numbers games, basketball, soccer, football. When you're on offense, you try to get a numbers advantage play for anyone who plays those sports. And League of Legends is the same thing. You use lane prio, use tempo, use every advantage that you have to try to get a numbers advantage so that you can get more gold for your team. And when you are ahead, that means that if you are taking an even-footed fight or just something where you don't have numbers or position advantage, probably something went wrong in the game. Next is League is a probability game. We are all humans. So we need to make the highest percentage play for us. And we need to make it so that our opponent has a high chance of making a mistake. Say I take two 60-40 fights. Legitimately, we only have a 36% chance of winning both those fights. 48% of the time, it's a 1-for-1. We win one and they win one. 16% of the time, we lose both. So if I'm running a Kalista comp against Zeri and I take two 60-40 fights, we win one and they win one, honestly, that's pretty shitty for the game. So that is why we need to do the highest percentage plays in each game. And that is why we focus on plans, setups, and positioning before we go into the fight. So much can happen in a fight. Obviously, like teams can get to insanely high levels of execution where there's still variability, but it's not as high as other teams. But for the most part, plans, setups, and positioning are repeatable. We can get to a point where we can do those things right 95, 98% of the time, but execution is always going to be a bit of a flip. How well do we play it? How well does the enemy team play it? So that is League is a probability game. Beryl thinks League is a turn-based land control game. It's kind of confusing. Is he on drugs or is he smart? We will find out later. Okay, so let's regroup. League is a numbers game. Try to work on skills in scrims that are hard to work on outside of scrims. League is a probability game. We're all humans. So now that we've got that out of the way, how can we analyze and focus on these things when watching a VOD? So we're going to start going through examples. So spoiler, Beryl is smart. It is about having your turns, and we will basically figure that out right now. So in this game, we're going to be looking at Genji in this game. And so we will just define rounds. So one round, especially in the early game, is basically around jungle and kind of around bot lane, but for the most part around jungle. So we'll just times 2 it. One round is when he starts to when he bases. So on this round, their plan was, we are pushing bot, pushing mid, pushing top, Viego find enemy jungle, and let's make sure that we get tempo bases where we can. So Viego does his job. We can just skip through it because we're just defining stuff. So that is one round. He cleared the camps that he wanted to clear, and then he based, and as a team, they had a plan for that specific round. Okay, so now let's go over turns and tempo. So a turn is basically when you can move. And it's not only when you have prio, it's also when you catch second. You can also have a turn, and I'll go over that in a second. So right now, Viego is trying to invade Maokai, find Maokai. He finds him, he wards. Jovi's doing a good job. He puts himself in between Azir and Viego. Very nice. But let's just look at turns. So Rumble's pushing in top. In about, 20 seconds, he's going to have a turn where he can do something. And League of Legends is about how do you use your turns to actually do something to either connect yourself to the plan, do something proactive, or get tempo. So he uses his first turn. Ward on Krugs. Great. That's a perfectly fine turn in the early game. So if I'm a coach, these are the things I'm looking for. What is each player using their turn for? Rumble used his first turn to get a deep ward so that they can spot Maokai. Because once again, we already said the plan of the early game is to track the jungler. Okay. So now it's what is your job in relation to the plan? I mean, this is a funny clip. I like it. But it's an interview with Impact after he won LCS finals.
Impact as well, 6th LCS title of all time. How does this one compare to the rest?
Sorry?
How does it feel to win this 6th title?
I just do my job, like, I didn't feel like that. I mean, to me, kind of easy that game.
Okay. So, for people that don't know Impact, you might think he's just talking about coming into work, doing his job. But what he means by doing his job is, in-game, everyone, depending on your plan, has a job. And he is very set on... Now, this is why he's been really good in NA for so long, is because he gets everyone to understand their job very well based on the plan. So, we'll kind of get to that in a second. First, just definitions once again. A round, when you're fresh off fountain until next phase, that's one round. Turns, you have time before the next wave comes in. Basically, every time you have time, you have some ammo, and you can pull the trigger to do something, or you can keep the ammo until you actually want to do something with your turn. So what I mean by that is, say you have, say you have mid prio permanently. You can keep the mid laner under turret if you can keep it 1v1, and then you can hover, come back mid. You have ammo to do something whenever you want, whenever your team wants. So that is an example of, holding ammo when you want to. The other thing I want to go over, which I said I was going to go over, is so turns. Obviously, when you have prio, it's easy to say, okay, you have a turn. But when you don't have prio, same thing. And we'll have examples of this later in the game, later in the day. But so mid lane, let's say you're bot and support are mid, and you want to play for top control. Pretty standard. So you push in mid. They're 80 is now catching the wave. You guys go in, drop some nice vision. Boom, boom, boom. Nice. We have a nice line. Looking good. All right. Now, what's going to happen? You guys are going to have to go back, catch this next wave, hopefully as high as possible. But while you're catching this wave, now they have a turn. They have a turn to go in, and they need to use their turn to do something. And hopefully it's clear out some of the vision. So that's what I mean by you still have turns when you're catching second. It's just a different timing. And so basically when some teams, they are playing scaling comps because they don't respect the enemy team's ability to end the game, it's because they're really confident in using these turns well. They catch second, they'll clear out some of this vision, not to mention they're also probably pretty good at trade plays, but for the most part, they're using their turns well. Okay, so that's turns. And then tempo is, a lot of people have different definitions for tempo, but I think it's just when you're on map before the opponent. If you're on map before the opponent, you have tempo. If you have prio, then you have a turn. A lot of people use tempo for both of those. I think like it's good to be clear. So tempo is just when you're on map before opponent. Okay, so then let's focus on those things when we are now going over this next step. Okay, so this is the same game later. Genji already lane swapped, but we'll go to the next round. So the next round is going to be starting now, which is Kalista based. Pretty sure Viego is fresh off base. Rumble's basing. It's a new round. So new round. What's the plan? Let's just pretend we're in their comms. Their plan is we want Dragon and hopefully some bot side vision to make Dragon better. Okay, great plan. So now what is everyone's job? And how is everyone going to use their turns to connect themselves to the plan? So Rumble bases, goes top. Kalista's going bottom. We can see Kalista is probably going to have tempo. He's on map before the Draven. Nala sees Poppy, so he goes and drops some wards. Very nice. Okay. They're pushing in bottom. So bot's going to have a turn. Rumble, his job, match the Aatrox. So he recognized that. Really good by Keen. Aatrox is in base. He has TP. Technically, he can run straight to Dragon and then TP up to the top turret, or he can just TP down to the Dragon fight. So he matches. Chovy's job, make sure he has good resources and has package for the Dragon. Nollis' job, get deep vision when he saw the Poppy, and then link up with Kalista. Perfect. Genji, great team, right? Everyone did their jobs well. They have some vision. They're doing the Dragon with Kalista. Great round. As a player, you don't get that much dopamine from this, but as a coach, it's as good as it gets. Tons of dopamine. Fantastic stuff. We're getting this Dragon. They're not going to come and fight against like Kalista with first setup and Corki package. Okay. So, great round. Now, the most crucial part that a lot of teams mess up on, we have to end the round in a clean way. T1, also a very good team. They use their resources to get this bot push. Why? Because they want to have a turn. They want to use a turn for something, whether it's to pressure an enemy jungle or base for tempo. They want a turn, and in order to get the turn, they are trying to get this bot wave while the enemy team, or while Genji is on Dragon. So, very nice. They're using their resources to get Draven a turn. And if I remember correctly, they don't use the turn for much. They could base for tempo if they want. Maybe set up for Herald. And Genji, they recognize that maybe Kalista can get Dove. So they have the boys behind basing out of vision and Corki hovering down. They know that's enough to dissuade T1 from diving. And now they can base and bluff and Kalista can catch the wave. So they did it. They were able to get Kalista back on the turret. Now Kalista needs the base to end the round. We're going to go over VOD, like I said, later, where we don't get our base off on AD and we couldn't end the round. But he sees Draven go over the Tribush board. He knows he can cheat an extra wave, which is insane because he has no numbers on his side, but he uses the information to cheat a wave, gets the wave, and bases. If he didn't see Draven, he probably would have based right here. But he does, so he can get the extra wave. But the whole point is, it's all about turns. It's all about rounds. It's all about jobs and tempo. So why didn't Viego and Nala stay a little bit longer? They wanted some more tempo. They knew that they can bluff information, that they can be next to the Kalista. Now they can come out of base faster with tempo and be on map sooner. All right, hopefully that makes sense. I know I'm going a little quick, but we don't have a ton of time. Okay, so that's good. Great round. A+. Genji is a pretty good team. So we tempo checked. we reviewed the plan as a coach. Like, I knew what the plan was. I tried to pinpoint what everyone's job is, and I look at if everyone is doing their job correctly. Everyone was. How is each player using their turns? Turn warfare, in a sense, because both teams, they're going to do their best to use their turns to the best of their ability and engineer as many turns as possible. And then what comms do we need to give us the highest chance of doing the above well? And this is really important. And here's an example. When FBI first joined our team in summer, he was assuming, well, he thought that everyone should just know what to do. And yeah, you can comp, but for the most part, like, you should know you're supposed to push top and then hover down. You should know that you have to match the Aatrox, or you should know that your job is to base and get package for the dragon. And for the most part, in a perfect world, yes, everyone should know that. But that's not League of Legends. We're all humans. So the best teams, they use communication to cover for all of those things. So while they're calling for the dragon, anyone can say, okay, Aatrox has TP, like, are you going to hover down? Or, okay, do you have package for this dragon? Or, okay, we see Poppy. Oh, we see Poppy, we see numbers. Like, we can go in and get efficient. Like, anyone can say those things because the whole point of a team is to basically give us the highest chance of doing all these things correctly. And be patient. I have literally gotten top 4 in LCS with a mid laner who had no idea which side of the lane to hover ever. And we had to tell him every single wave which side of the lane he needs to hover. Because he was insanely mechanically talented. He would 1v1 everyone. He was insanely good at team fighting. But this one thing he struggled with. So we stepped up as a team and we covered for that one thing because he was really good at other things. So be patient. I promise you, every player has their strengths. Every player has their weaknesses. But a good team covers for each other's strengths, which covers for each other's weaknesses so that everyone can play to their strengths. Okay, so let's practice doing a review. This is an easy first one. All right, so in this clip, energy, we're coming off of, quarterfinals at Worlds, defending champions, up 7k gold. Surely we do this correctly, right? The goal and the plan is topside vision into a Baron bait. So let's just look at wave states and let's look at how each team uses their turns and what each team should be playing for on each turn. So energy, they push in mid. All right. So looking at waves. All right, let's watch the whole thing. All right, absolute disaster. So what happened? Obviously, we walked in and we got absolutely destroyed. But in terms of actually having legitimate takeaways from this disaster of an experience, we will just talk about turns and talk about why this went poorly. And if we're just looking at waves, obviously Corki is catching second. Azir has a move timer. Rumble is catching bottom, but he's also hovering around the same time as Jace. And even though it feels like we have a turn because we pushed in mid-wave, Tomo and Isles aren't even showing up mid-wave yet. They're just sitting in the jungle. So we don't have any type of numbers advantage. We're ahead 7,000 gold, no positioning advantage, no numbers advantage, just running into the enemy because we assumed we would have numbers advantage because we pushed in mid. So takeaways, obviously there are a ton of ways we can play this out, but wait for someone to show on mid lane. This first turn that we have, it probably shouldn't be used to run into the enemy jungle and kill ourselves. It should probably be used to connect the Corki and make sure that Corki can actually push the next wave before we have to go back and catch mid wave again. And that way, we'll be able to get hopefully to a spot where their bot lane is catching second, Azir is catching second, and Corki's closer. And maybe Dokla's TP is up so he can stay bottom. But for the most part, it was rushed. We didn't wait for our turns, and we didn't get numbers advantage. So that's a pretty easy first one. And then how to get numbers advantage, we went over that. It's use your turns well. So be patient. The hardest things in League of Legends are being patient and doing nothing. It's really hard to do nothing. But sometimes the best play is to literally just S key in a bush for 15 seconds and then clear the wave again. So yeah, there are a lot of options. But the most important thing is make sure that we actually have turns and we have numbers advantage. Okay. So next, a little bit more complex. But we're going to go through the steps. What is the plan? What is everyone's job? Tempo check and turns. Okay. So this is right after the previous clip of Genji I showed you guys. All right, so like we said earlier, Kalista saw Draven go across this tri-bush ward. So he's able to cheat this next bot wave. So when he bases, well, let's just say he has a turn. And what is he going to use his turn for? It's going to be to base for tempo. Nautilus and Viego already on map. Nice. Kalista cleared the wave first. Basing for tempo. Very nice. Nautilus cheating vision. I think he saw Maokai or something. But he's getting a vision timer. Okay. So. Sorry. Very nice. We have vision in top jungle. The plan is to get Herald. Let's see how this world-class team does. And surely they don't fuck this one up. And I'll just narrate something. So, 1... Aatrox is top, so who's going to have a turn in a bit? It's going to be the Aatrox. So Aatrox is going to have a top turn. Azir is bottom first. Azir is going to have a bot turn. Aatrox bases with his turn. Now Kalista is top alone, so Kalista is going to have a turn. Rumble pushed mid, so Rumble's going to have a turn. So we're looking at how everyone is using their turns. All right. Rumble's going bot. Seems a little bit strange if our plan is to do Herald. All right. Shit's flying a little bit off the rails. All good. Alright, we're getting double TP'd on. Poppy is here. That does not look very good. Alright, at least we're getting Herald. It's okay. Maybe the Rumble kill goes to like Maokai or Poppy. Alright, it's a disaster. So, what the fuck just happened? If I'm a coach, I'm listening to the comms, we had such a great plan. It was, we're going to get Herald. And it seems like that's the plan, that's why they're on it. So, what went wrong? What happened? Let's diagnose. Okay, so first things first. Let's get rid of all these. So what was the plan? What was each player's job? So for Rumble, he was on mid. It was what we think was mid push into Herald, or just use your turn well, right? We're already in position. Looks like we can go push top, push mid, start Herald. Looks pretty good. Viego, be top side, start Herald when we have turns, top and mid. Obviously start on a good timer. Sorry. Corki, he's going to be by himself for the most part. Obviously, Rumble has mid pile, so he can hover a little bit. But when you're playing Corki here, it's track numbers, cheat as many ways as possible, and be ready to TP with good resources. Or better resources than Azir. So when he's in this situation, Chovy, he sees Draven, Maokai, Poppy. No one can be bottom except for Aatrox TP. So time to play like a lunatic because we destroy this guy 1v1. So now he has better resources than Azir. So Chovy doing his job. Kalista top catch and push since he didn't want to miss a wave. There's a wave coming in, and then Herald start / match Draven if that's what they want to do. So when he came out of base, there was this wave top to catch. Corki already cleared the mid wave. So as a team, they don't want to miss this wave. He's on map first. He goes top. So not extremely important. He could technically go mid, but they're a very good team. They don't want to miss a single wave. And then Nautilus sync for jungle vision, help hover for lane prio, and be in a position for Herald, which Lens is doing. He was able to cheat vision. He's in the right spot. So everyone, for the most part, doing their job. Maybe Lens is probably could have based instead of being right here to base for vision tempo. That's a whole other thing because Kalista's top, Rumble's mid, you're outnumbered. But for the most part, everyone did their job. So what the fuck happened? Like, come on, guys. We're a world-class team. How did that situation end with us giving first blood to Draven? So diagnose the problem. We changed the plan. We were outnumbered bottom. Why? That's it. Like, why were we outnumbered bottom? So was it a comms issue? Did we not realize that Aatrox had TP? Did we think that we saw Poppy topside? Or maybe we thought we could outplay a 2v3. Like, literally what happened? And that's what, when you're watching, you need to kind of internalize because you're going to be reviewing this with your team. So what should our plan be? So if Azir dies, probably don't need to go too in depth with that because then everything's easy, right? If Azir actually died to this roam, then we'd have 4v3 on Herald, right? Draven's 1 HP, Azir's dead. They have 3 people that can be topside, and we have 4 with Corki TP. So we would just get Herald. Everything would be pretty easy. Don't really have to worry about too much. We can optimize some things, but for the most part, it's easy. So we don't have to dive into that. Well, what if Azir doesn't die, which is what happened? So let's think about what our options are before we go and review this with our team. Do we want to 4v4 at Herald? Well, if we 4v4 at Herald with Kalista no ult, Nautilus no ult, and Rumble no ult, well, Rumble's not even going to be there. It's probably not going to be the best fight. Even though Draven's low condition, he's not going to be in the fight. Azir TP, Aatrox, Maokai, Poppy, probably not worth it when you're running this type of composition. So that's no good. Probably shouldn't do that. All right, maybe a 5v4 bot mid. So maybe we don't actually do the Herald anymore. Maybe we should use our mid chunk to play bot side. Honestly, makes a little bit of sense. We avoid this whole shit show of a situation topside, and we make up for the fact that Rumble has no TP, so we're fighting towards the Rumble. Instead of Viego starting Herald, we can cross through mid, and then we can play mid bot and try to get one of these turrets. And then maybe if they TP, then like corking TP top, but it makes more sense. So I kind of like that. Maybe I can bring that up with my team. Use one mid turn bot. And then if Azir and Aatrox TP, Corki TP top. All right, maybe we do a patient play, which is Viego. We still don't start the Herald. We hover towards bottom. And then if they TP to defend the turret, then Corki knows he can TP up top, and then we can shift from bot side to top. So that's pretty good too. So some good things to bring up with my team. Now, yeah, I kind of went over this stuff, but address what happened first, which is what. So Sam, in the review, like, what should I do? Address happened first. When plan was Herald, Adjusted could have did their job better. Like I said, I thought that Nautilus kind of wasted some time just based off turns and numbers. Obviously, we're outnumbered here. Like, what are we doing? I like that you held Viego's hand while I did Raptors, but now it's a bit of time before we're going to start this Herald. It's not even up yet. Maybe base, get fresh wards, come back off map. We're still waiting for our team to get back on map. So that's what I would say to Lehens. Okay, cool. And I can ask him too, what do you think you could have done better? Because at the end of the day, it's cool that I know or have an idea of what he can do better, but I'm not in game. Players need to be able to problem solve. So when you ask these questions in review, now they're problem solving. What should I have done? And so in the future, he's like, damn, like, yeah, maybe I could have actually based for tempo here. Came back with fresh wards and then Herald will spawn, and when they sweep, I will have 4 more wards to place. Okay, so the plan changed. Azir didn't die. Why did we get outnumbered? Like I said before, figure it out as a team. Was it a comps issue? Tracking TPs, misjudge. Solve the issue with the players. It's a discussion. It's not just you being like, what the fuck? Like, we didn't track TPs. It's like, what happened? We have to diagnose as a team. Even if it was as simple as tracking TPs, they know, they can say it. Yeah, like we thought Aatrox had no TP. All right, cool. We need to have more urgency on tracking TPs. Like, pretty straightforward. But be quick. Go to the next thing. What are our options after Azir survives? And once again, ask this to the team. Give them a chance to figure it out. If I am just saying all these things and they're agreeing with what I'm saying, that's cool. But they're not actually practicing what they need to do, which is problem solve in game. So discuss it quickly. Lead the conversation if you have to, if you think that they're not getting to a good solution, and then try to get everyone to agree on an option. Okay, finally, we can just get around. Do we think the plans were good or bad? And then there's a good chance they're just going to be like, probably not. We probably shouldn't have pulled Rumble bot side to try to kill the Azir. And we could have just started Herald, and that's probably better. Or the players might double down and be like, no, this was actually fine. Like, we should just do this. But the important thing is we come to an agreement, because then everyone's in sync of how we'd like to play the game. And keep in mind, this was only like a 2 to 3 minute round in a game. So we have to get through this quickly. We don't want to stay on this point for 10 minutes and then we have 5 minutes to talk about something else in the game. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so what did we just do? We made sure everyone knew their jobs in relation to the plan. So specifically like the Nautilus, specifically if we changed our plan to playing bot side for bot turret, now Viego and Nautilus need to go bot side instead of starting the Herald. We held ourselves accountable when we could have been more efficient. So same thing, the Nautilus. We identified our mistake that led to us getting outnumbered. And team is aware how to fix it for the next time. That's the most important thing. Now, going into the next time, if we're in a similar situation, we know we need to be more conscious of TPs. Or we probably won't be able to outplay this 2v3. Like, we should not do this. But we know. And so now, in their heads, there's just that little extra bit of a chance that they will recognize it next time. Players practice their ability to problem solve. If they're in that situation again, maybe they figure out, okay, we can't be bottom anymore, or we need to play around this, or we should just base and go top. Like, there is just more practice problem solving, and everything's a skill. The more people practice problem solving, the better they're going to be at problem solving. And we synced up our opinions on how we want to play for next time. Great. Perfect. Okay, so now let's go over some VODs from the Combine. Okay. All right. Just a few clips, so to kind of remember what's happening here. Okay. Yeah, so in this game, blue side, they were up about 4,000 gold, and then, or maybe 3,000 gold, and then they lost a team fight on Dragon. So now the game is pretty close. So we're going to be viewing this from the perspective of blue side. Okay, so we're analyzing. We can look at the map. Okay, just based off turns, who's going to have some turns. The plan is to get topside vision, just so we're all aware. Okay, Kliss is on mid wave. He gets topside vision. Cryo saw Nautilus bottom, so Cryo knows that he can cheat a little bit of vision here. Very nice. Okay, now Kalista has a turn. Now what are we going to use our turn for? Let's watch. Okay, so we have a bit of numbers advantage. Draven is catching mid. Maybe Talia messes up. They kill Talia. But, okay, great. Draven caught second, but now that he's caught the wave, now whose turn is it? We have to go back and clear mid wave. It's not our turn anymore. So, red side, they did well. They didn't kill themselves in their jungle. They waited for Draven to clear mid. Now they clear mid. Now it's their turn to do something. So clear topside vision. Ari sees red side up here. Very nice. Clear safely. And now blue side is like, oh shit, they're all topside. Let's just pressure bottom and get bot turret. Very nice. Once again, not that much dopamine for players in game, but for a coach, tons of dopamine. This is great stuff. We were able to use our turn to get topside vision. Then we respected the fact that they have a turn. We cleared mid. And then we saw them all topside and we pressured them off a bot turret. Solid stuff. Maybe some things could be mid-max, but for the most part, if teams play like this, they're going to have a good time. I would prefer the gold win on Ari, which is why I kind of prefer Ari to be bottom. But for the most part, this is all good. Now, the last part, which is we need to end the round, right? We already used all of our wards. Our support probably wants to reset, which means we can't hold control. So when do we reset? If we were Gen G, they would reset probably right now because they would know that the top laner respects. He can't stay under turret. You don't actually have to pressure this, and you have home guards out of base. You sprint to mid. Very easy. You'll be on time for mid, and you will have fresh wards, and you won't get dove. And you already got bot turret. So if we were Gen G, we'd probably base now, but it's okay. We actually are, I think, 1 or 2 ways away from Guinzu's on Kalista, so not the end of the world. There's logic behind it, so I'm completely okay with it. If I was coaching this team, we clear the next wave. Base Guinzu's great. We played for item spike. Pretty solid round. We don't have a ton of tempo because we didn't base on that timer, but pretty solid. Okay, so next plan is they choose to do the same thing, which is topside vision. So once again, let's look at turns. Let's look at tempo, and we already know that we're coming off the map. We're pretty far ahead. We have a little bit of tempo. And then let's look at right side turns. Okay, so just looking at numbers, why don't we like what's happening right now? And anyone can answer. Okay, I'll have good responses. Yeah, it's a ton of things, right? It's like we're not pushing out top. So now Talia and Ari are just matching each other. So even though Ari's coming through mid, Talia's there. We actually didn't know of Nala's base, so it was already pretty risky. We could have just walked into 4 people. Kalissa's on mid wave, or 3 people. Kalissa's on mid wave with Draven. We could be walking into 3 people. So it's just, we identified we wanted topside vision, but we rushed it. We 100% rushed it, and we didn't get punished here, but we could have. This could have been like we're saying in the chat, this easily could have been like the energy game where we get completely wiped, and then, oh shit, we just lost Nash in a game where we were in a really good spot. So this first turn, if I'm looking at this game, this is too aggressive. I would just want to push this next wave with Kalista, get Ari to top lane, and then make sure Ari can push this top wave. And then we're going to be playing off the mid wave. It's going to be a really patient setup where we make sure that we have top and mid push. Cryo does a really good job of not actually putting down his wards. These are previous wards, which is nice. And then he wards top tri push. Obviously, this Baron start is probably not what it's going to be, which we figure out pretty quickly. But for the most part, okay, Ari's top. We have this tri-bush ward for Ari. We're back on mid-wave. Pretty good. Udyr has a turn. Udyr's using his turn to, I think, hit the plant and clear vision. Oh, sorry. Okay, clear vision. Kalissa's on mid-wave. Let's look at just waves. Kalissa's touching mid. We're walking in. once again, probably a little early, right? Kalissa's still on mid wave. I'm not sure if we know exactly where Nollis is, but we could be walking into Nollis and Talia. And Graves. So, once again, wait for people to show on waves. Let's wait for them to show on mid before we walk in. Let's wait for top push if we feel safe pushing top, but probably needs to play a little bit safe. But either way, they weren't there. We got away with it a little bit. But now look at our setup. This is fantastic. We have wards. Ari is able to catch top. Kalista is able to catch mid-high. We still have 3 wards on Renata. So we're in a really good spot. We've done some good stuff. And then now, Kasate has a move and comes through mid. He has a turn. They use this turn to get rid of all of our vision, and all of our hard work is done. So, shit. What the fuck just happened? Okay, well, let's go back. So we have a ton of points on how people could use their turns better and what we should be playing for as our mid trio and Ari to make sure that we have a good setup. But let's actually look at the Udyr. So Udyr at this point, really strong. Done a fantastic job. He has 2 core, 192 CS. He's growing really well. He has a turn, and he uses his turn to hit the plant and clear vision. So 2 things. 1, we're using our ammo because we're not maintaining our turn, and we clear this vision, which is nice. But now Kasante is going to have a turn. So what we do need to sync up is when Udyr does this type of full commit, there needs to be a reason to do it. And for Kasante's reason later, it's because they needed to clear vision around Baron. Blue side had a really good setup. We need to use your turn to clear vision. So Kasante comes, clears vision. Really nice use of the turn. When Udyr is using his turn, clearing the vision is nice, but it's probably better at this point, since we're winning the 4v4 top side for control, to make sure Kasante never gets a turn. So you can disappear. I say this all the time, like, if you have a bit of time, legit, just go sit in Tri-Bush and Fog. It puts so much pressure on the enemy team. Like, okay, Udyr could be flanking us. We need to be further back. We don't know where he can be, or you can do Gromp, or you can catch him the next wave higher. Like, just something that's putting pressure on the enemy team. Obviously, respectfully, don't let yourself die to ganks. But, yeah. But, okay. So, sucks that this round didn't give us a lot. But we have a lot of good points to bring up with our team to review. And these are all points that are widely applicable. We're 100% going to get into situations, again, next game or in the future, where people are in these exact situations and they're going to have a higher chance of doing it right next time. So, fantastic. Sucks that we didn't do it correctly, but I'm really happy that we got this review point in our game. It means the game is calculated, people are thinking, and macro is being displayed. So we get to practice it. So yeah. And I think it ends up with I think this all ends up with like Kasante cleared vision, and then like Ari couldn't keep top push because Kasante hovered up, and then Ari dies, and like it's really easy to just look at this and be like, we need to respect the dive. It's like, yeah, like we do need to respect the dive for sure, but there's a ton of stuff that happened to lead up to this death. And that's the important thing when you're reviewing a game or analyzing. It's like, why did this happen? So yeah, boom, boom, really nice look. And then now it turns into an absolute shit show. All right. Hopefully I don't go over my time. Yeah, it was really close to hitting a median, to be honest. All right, so next one. All right, this is Mordekaiser POV. But just to keep everyone in the loop, the plan here is Jin Rakan are opening up topside, and they want to kill the Camille / get the turret. And I think, just in general, when you make a plan, the macro plan is plan A, the kill is plan B. So when you're making this plan, we are swapping topside to get top set up and hit the turret. If Camille kills himself, he kills himself. So just in general, make plans for macro plays. Don't make plans for kills. Another example of that is if he pushes up, then we can TP behind. Like that's like just it's a what's the word for it? I can't think of the word, but there's logic behind it. It's not just like, okay, like he's pushing up bot really far, can we kill? Then he sprint from mid all the way to bottom, he gets away. It's like there needs to be a lot of logic behind like going for those types of things. That's kind of confusing, but it is what it is. Okay, so Jin and Rakan open up top side. Very nice. Varus is bottom. Rakan and Lee Sin in a good spot. They clear the wave. Surprise party. 4 people. Goodbye, Shocky. Rakan ends up dying. But overall, still pretty okay with this, right? Because Mordekaiser can break the rules, TP bottom, and he has ult. He's 3-0. They cannot touch this guy. So, solid. Fantastic. Great plan. Everyone did their jobs accordingly. Maybe mechanically we could have done the dive better, but those are mechanics. There's always going to be things you can play better. But from a coach perspective, macro, super nice. Loved it. Now, what's next? So we got what we came for. Now it's how do we end the round? So Rakan coming out of base with fresh wards. Jin gets top turret. He's even able to get this next wave top. We almost killed this Varus. He barely escapes. Alright. So, Rakan's out of base. Jin is still on map. He has a ton of gold. So, we need to figure out how to get Jin a base. And whether that's him basing right now and then coming out mid after Hui clears, or there are other options. Which is like maybe this next wave. I think we're going to see the Wukong soon. Lee Sin and Rakan can help Jin clear this top wave, and then he can base. But in general, we need to figure out how to end this round. Jin is stuck with tons and tons of gold, and it isn't a one-person mistake. This is a team mistake. We didn't identify that Jin needed to base to end the round, and we're just leaving Jin top to kind of operate on his own. And then he gets stuck here. So even though this entire round was insane, super good decisions, we need to, so when was the ideal time for Jin to reset? That's a discussion for the team. I have my own opinions, and my own opinion is probably just base like right now. The Herald is ours. We got the Herald, just base. That's perfectly fine time to reset. Hui can clear mid and then run top, or clear mid, run bottom, ward top. We can fix times. The other option is, okay, maybe he needs one more wave for an item. Well, Rakan is top, Lee Sin is top, we see Wukong. Honestly, I'm not too certain on Aurelion Soul TP, but maybe we can help Jin clear this next wave with Lee Sin, Rakan, and then he can hit base. And the reason why League is cool is because depending on like the information in game, both of those might be fine. But the important thing is that we're all in sync of what the plan is. And if the plan is to clear one more wave top, ASOL's not going to TP, and then I base for an item, then everyone has to do their job accordingly. If the plan was for, okay, we're resetting after Herald, then Jin didn't understand his job. And Jin needs to base while we're doing Herald, come back on map because he's not going to get help for this top wave. We have to be connected. It's a team game. Okay. So he gets stuck top, ends in a nightmare, 1-for-1. Honestly, not too bad, but okay. Let's look at the next round. So Lee Sin pushes in top. Now that gives us a really big turn, right? Because no one has to go top for a while. We're just looking at turns. Okay. So we have a bit of time to do something. Camille's top. 5v4 bot side. Maybe he can TP in, but Mordekaiser's strong. So, what type of lane assignment do we want? I think Dragon's coming up in like 2 minutes. Mordekaiser TP in 30. Yeah, I mean, I kind of spelled it out, but seems probably good to put Mordekaiser top. Because Hui also needs help, right? Hui is going to need help in the 1v1 or get vision. Like, maybe Hui's fine in the 1v1, but She's not fine in a 2v1. Mordekaiser's fine in a 2v1. So yeah, leave Mord Island top. Pretty easy decision. But that's why we need to be discussing that now, which is we crashed top wave. What are we doing? But then who's going to catch top when it comes into us? So we didn't correctly identify that. Once again, not the end of the world. It would be nice if we did that, but it's not the end of the world. So what can we do that we didn't identify that? So Hui bases goes top. Dragon's going to be coming up in like a minute 30. So now what do we need to do? We sent Hui top. We made the mistake of not putting Mordekaiser top. Now what is everyone's job? Hui does not have TP, by the way. And we want to fight the dragon. Okay. A lot of good responses. So an option for sure is Mordekaiser can just base. They can give top turret and put more top. That was something they discussed in the review as well. Get Hui a turn with Rakan Lee Hover to get out top. That's if you're putting Hui top, you have to do that, which is send 3 top, like a few people are saying, and make sure that Hui can push out top and then come to the dragon. That's the only thing you can do legitimately if you want to fight the dragon. So, okay, we put Hui top. Now everyone needs to think about what that means for their jobs. And like I said, everyone has to communicate what we need, which is, yeah, we're going to need numbers top, guys. And honestly, maybe we lose the top 3v3. I'm not too sure on like the gold situation. But in general, that is what you kind of have to do. So the fact that I see Rakan going bottom, Lee Sin top, it's like not obviously it's easy to look at this and be like, oh, like Rakan should just like be top, but obviously we didn't even discuss it as a team. So we didn't pinpoint what it means if we put Hui top, which is how do we get Hui to dragon? So yeah. So yeah, Lee Sin needs to come top, Rakan needs to come top. Eventually, I think at this point we put Mordekaiser top. But it's all about who needs the resources and how do we achieve what we need to achieve, which is getting a dragon fight. And if we're putting Hui top without TP, we need to bring Hui down to the dragon. Lee Sin and Rakan meet up with Hui, try to get a top push. We have Mordekaiser TP to cover, bring Hui down, and then either Mordekaiser can base and catch top, or depending on when dragon's spotting, we can all be on dragon, and then he can TP top. So what's the plan? What is everyone's jobs? And then how do we use our turns? All right. How do you determine who would be at neutral objectives? Is it who has more resources at the time, or who would be at neutral? Well, I mean, it's a hard answer because there's a question in the chat. Yeah, it's like, how would you determine who would be at neutral objectives? Is it whoever has more resources at the time, or whoever can do more at the fight? There's so many variables. It's like, who has more gold? What champions are in the game? Does positioning advantage matter? How much does the objective matter? What are trade plays available? So if you are 7k gold down and you can fight a second dragon fight with first setup, maybe you guys decide that's what you should do. But for the most part, you should probably trade that dragon to get gold if you can actually get gold on the map. If you are the other side, then yeah, you should probably take that fight even if they have first setup because you're 7,000 gold ahead and for some reason they're fighting e5e5. So yeah. But if they have first setup and you're playing like Acel and you're up 7,000 gold and you have a dragon, fuck it, man. Like, I know you're up 7,000 gold. Just get more gold. I promise you the game's already won. You don't have to fight into first setup. So it's a good question, but there's a lot of different things you need to think about. And that's why when I put compositions on this list, it's thinking about the win cons of all the compositions. If you're playing, the reason why FlyQuest was so good on Azir, it's not because, okay, well, a lot of it is because Jensen's very good at team fighting on Azir, but it's because their mid game, they had the least heralds taken in all of LCS by far. And it's because every single time herald spawned, they would do a trade play and get gold onto Azir and make sure Azir was growing really well going into mid game. And that's what you have to do when you run these types of compositions. So it's all about what are the win cons of your comps, who needs gold, and what we need to do in game to achieve that win con. All right, I have one more VOD. Let's see if we can do this. All right, so real quick. So we were bot side and we decided that we're going to be blue side again. We decided in game that we are going to cover this bot dive with Orianna TP and Xin Zhao can just clear up and take, Herald. So that's the plan. I'm going to go through this quickly. So Xin Zhao clears up. Red side goes for this bot dive. We TP with Alistar. Or not with Alistar, with Orianna. Hopefully not Alistar. Boom, boom. Open onto the Jax. Seems pretty good. Get caught. Dead. Okay. So, reviewing this as a coach, it's now, okay, so what do we think? Honestly, I know Instinct. I think Instinct, honestly, 9 out of 10 times kills everyone here. Because we call that Talia's coming. He kites left, gets one reset, and then doesn't get hit by the shove because he's kiting left. He gets one reset and kills everyone. So, honestly, we might be completely okay with this play. We use the TP. We're greeting for Herald. We can 3v4 bot side, clear the wave. And then after Xin Zhao gets the Herald, he can help regain control of bot side. So, I think it's also important as a coach to recognize when, honestly, the plan is serviceable. It was just a one-off for like a mechanical misplay. And that is just as important as, because sometimes like the team just does play something poorly, which is completely fine. And we can also ask like, okay, like what else do you guys think you should do? Because in my head, I might not agree with the plan, even though it was serviceable. So what else could we have done? Well, in this game, you guys don't know, but Jinx is 3-0. We probably shouldn't put Jinx on the island or put him weak side. We should probably just help push out bottom. If they do Herald, get bot turret, or if we do Herald, we bring Jinx to the Herald. So I don't 100% agree with the play, but the plan was serviceable. It would have worked, but it was just a lapse of mechanical play. So perfectly fine, serviceable. If I'm reviewing this game, I'm kind of fine with it. So it is important to keep that in mind. So I know I've gone over a lot of shit. Hopefully, I mean, I only have an hour. So conclusion, everything in life is a skill, including the ability to learn. That's why asking questions is insanely important. Practice reviewing and analyzing games with teammates and coaches. I do this all the time. I will review a game with Croissant. In the off season last year or 2 years ago, I would just review games with EU coaches or whoever contacts me, and we'd review games together, review Worlds games, and I'll be wrong sometimes, he'll be wrong sometimes, and we'll talk it out and figure out a better way that they can play or what they're doing well. But it's making me better. Like, you honestly don't, you never reach to a point where you're just like, I understand the game completely. When something goes wrong, identify where in the flowchart it went wrong. Was it a good plan? Was it a bad plan? Did we think we had tempo but we didn't? They were there first. Did we use our turns well? Did everyone know their job? And then if we did all of those things, we said it was a good plan, we had tempo, all this stuff, maybe we just executed poorly. And that's completely fine. For the most part, if you're in the right spot and the plan is good, you will win the fight or you will execute it well. Next, be patient with your teammates. This one's really important. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. I promise you, League is about covering for each other's weaknesses. You will never have, or it's rare that you will have perfect players that do everything perfectly, and you will have to help them in some aspects of the game with communication. So accept that. The best players do that very, very well. And then the last thing is, I know it's pretty cringe, but try to enjoy it. We all chose this path for a reason. Do not get lost in the sauce. It's so easy to get frustrated, to get really mad at your teammates, to get mad at your coaches, all this stuff. Sometimes it's healthy to be frustrated, but we're all humans. Remember, we're choosing this life because this is what we want to do. It should be fun. So don't get too lost in the sauce. I have to remind LCS teams of that all the time, because sometimes you kind of forget that you're literally waking up and you're doing what you love for a living. So treat each other with respect and be human. All right, any questions? I'm also going to be around just for DMs. So if people have DMs or just don't want to ask their questions in the chat, shoot me a DM. You can ask a question. If you want to go over VODs with just me, hit me up. I'm happy to go over VODs. I did it earlier with another coach at the Combine an hour ago or 2 hours ago. So just reach out. I promise you I will try to help as best I can. Yeah, hopefully it wasn't too complicated. I tried to fit a lot of stuff into the presentation. Yeah, I saw Command Attack try to put a Subway Surfer thing in the background, and I was like, oh shit, man, are we with the Zoomers now? Do we not have do we need something to hold attention span? I'm behind the times. Honestly, there are a lot of different teams with a lot of different skills. Question in the chat. I saw you were reviewing a lot of LCK. Do you think they do it the best out of all the major regions? For the most part, no. I think that there are a lot of really good teams in every single region. And also, once again, you break games into rounds. So you will have specific teams that are insanely good at positioning before team fights. So if you are looking at dragon fights, I think it was Mad Lions that was 2 to 3 years ago. They were the best team fighting team, one of the best in the entire world. And so when I was looking at, I want my team to be better at team fight positioning and setups and mechanics during team fights, we would actually look at Mad Lion setups because they were really good at it. I think for the most part, LCK does have a Korean style, which is very number centric and very macro heavy and all that stuff. Whereas LPL is a little bit more explosive. But you can look at JDG last year, and JDG was very macro intensive. Not in the sense that they would be super in your face with a macro, but they wanted gold on their carries to get to 22, 25 minutes. And then they'd win a fight. So if you wanted to play a scaling comp or you want to play a comp with Azir Zeri, I would have watched JDG's games from last year because they did a really good job of having good trade plays, taking early drakes when they can, and getting to a spot where they can out team fight mid late game because they had gold on their carries. So it depends what you are really looking at VODs for. I do think Gen G does have very, very good macro. But also, it is very centered around getting trophy gold. So, if you are playing with like a carry mid laner or a mid laner that is playing carries, then it could be good if they're playing the long range carries. But if you are playing with like an Akali player or, you know, a Nico player, then Gen G VODs might not be the best because a lot of their big game decisions are, how do I get gold onto, you know, my trophy Corki? What player sequence gives you the most coach dopamine? Just good rounds, man. I have a dream. This is my dream. My dream is that I will one day win a game with 0 kills. But it's not going to happen. But yeah, just good rounds. I think if you have a good round, you have a good plan, everyone knows their jobs, and then you reset well and come back, that's what League is. You have a good round, and then you connect it to the next round. So there's no, oh nice, like, and then you celebrate and you forget the base and then you die. Like, it's just, there's not a lot of time for celebration. It's just, all right, nice, sick, base, all right, what are we doing next? Yeah, watching games as a coach is pretty stressful, not going to lie. But it gets easier over time. All right, I'm probably going to end the presentation because the combine's starting. But I appreciate you guys all showing up, asking questions. All right. Peace out.